Hi, everybody. Today, before we talk about images, links, and anything like that, we are going to talk about relative and absolute paths. So let me share my screen with you so you will understand what I'm talking about here. So right here, I have some files that I decided to organize in folders. So the first folder you see here is the public underscore HTML folder. So that's the first folder right here. Okay, this is the first folder. Inside that folder, I have two other folders and I have three files. So the two other folders, images and pages, okay? So let me click on pages. So you're going to see that inside pages, I have another HTML. What is exactly relative path? Relative path, every time you need another file to call another file from a web page, okay, or because you are creating a hyperlink, or because you are calling an image, or you are calling a video, you will be using relative or absolute path. Relative path is, for example, suppose that I'm coding the index HTML that you see right here inside the public underscore HTML. So suppose that I'm coding inside here and I want to create a hyperlink to my page.html, which is also inside the public underscore HTML. They are inside the same folder. They are siblings. Let's consider like that. So for me to call from index.html the my page HTML, I can simply use my page.html as a reference, okay? Use the relative path relatively to where I'm coding from. So I'm coding from index and I'm calling my page. Now, suppose that I'm coding from index and I want to call now the my first .html file, which now is inside a folder called pages. I still can use the relative path. But this time I will need to open first the pages folder, okay? So let's see exactly how it will work. I don't want you to be concerned about the tags you're going to see because we are going to talk about those in a different video. I have the index HTML here, okay? So I'm going to put this here so you can see. So in the index HTML, I'm going to code some images and then some hyperlinks. Again, don't be concerned about the tags you're going to see here for images and hyperlinks because we are going to talk specifically about each one of those in the next videos. In the image here, let's see this second case here, this second paragraph, okay? I'm calling the school image, which is a JPEG in JPEG format. So that's why it's school.jpg. And that image is inside the images folder here. Look, where I'm coding from the index HTML, which is inside the public underscore HTML, which I'm considering to be my root folder, the root of my website. Now, the images is a folder inside the root folder. And as I'm calling from the school JPEG, from inside the index, I just need to open the images folder to find the school JPEG. That's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm opening the images folder, then a / to find the image I want. Now, in the other case, this third case here, okay, I'm opening another image, which is a PNG format. It's called Spring Break, okay, the image. Now, why you don't see the images / in this case? Because if you observe here above, the Spring Break image is in the same folder, is a sibling of the index HTML, which is the page I'm coding from. So I don't need, okay, to call the Spring Break, I don't need to open any folder. It's right there, it's right beside me. So I just refer to the name of the file. Both of those cases, they are using relative path because it's relatively to where I'm coding from, okay? Now, in the case of the first image, I am calling an image that is not saved inside the structure of my website. It's an external image. That's why I need to use the absolute path. The absolute path is the one that is exactly the URL, the location that gives the location of the image all across the internet. So what I did, I went to Google, I searched for an image, so I liked this image here. When I opened that image, it gave to me the URL right at the top here. I need to make sure that the URL ends with a .jpg or a .png or a .gif, okay? Because it's an image that I'm talking about. So then I copied that URL and I put that gigantic URL in my code. So look at this here, this gigantic URL that ends, okay, in the name of the file. It's gigantic. I copied from the browser. And then I have here the .jpeg image that has also a horrible name, WMC, whatever. Now, when I open this file on the browser, I have the image. This image here comes from another web page. This second image is the one that I called from inside the images folder. This third image here is the one that is the sibling of my index HTML, okay? So as you can see, the image showed up and the user, when looking at the website, they don't know if you use relative or absolute path. The same thing happens when you are calling pages. So when you are calling pages, like creating hyperlinks, okay, don't worry about the hyperlink, okay? Just worry about what I'm showing to you here. It's how to locate the file. So in this case here, I'm calling the my first .html, which is inside pages folder. So relatively from the index HTML, which is the one I'm coding from, I'm calling my first, so I need to open the pages folder to reach my first HTML. Now, if I want from index to call my page.html, they are siblings. So I don't need to open any folder. That's why you see in this case here, my page.html being called right away. Now, in the third case, I'm using the absolute path because I'm calling an HTML file, I'm calling another website from another website. It's not my website. It's not inside the structure that I have here for my website. So that's why I use the absolute path to call the Google website. So let's see those links working. So if I go to the links, I'm calling this first one is from inside the page folder. It opens the page.html, the my first.html, sorry, inside the page folder. Okay, now let me go back. Now the second link opens the sibling page, as I'm calling sibling page because it's inside the same folder. So as you can see, it opens the my page.html, which is inside the public underscore HTML folder. And the Google website, which will open another website. You are not going to see my website here. So there you go. It opens the Google website because I used absolute path to call the Google website. So these the criteria of relative or absolute path applies to hyperlinks, to images when you're working with images, or audio, or videos, any other file, okay, that is not your HTML file that you need to bring to your web page, you can use relative or absolute path. Now, why then? So suppose that now I'm in my web server, okay? And these will be transported to my web server. So I will have my domain name, www.abc.com, then / and my index HTML will come, okay? Then all that structure here will continue to work as much as I respect this structure here when I upload my files to the web server. Now, why would I use relative path instead of absolute path? Why I don't put here, for example, www.abc.com, suppose that abc.com is my domain name, then / images / and the name of the picture I want. Because the thing is, whenever you are coding and you are calling something that belongs to your website, belongs to the structure of your website, you should prefer using relative path. And the main reason is if you ever change your domain name, okay, then you do not need to be chasing all your HTML files to change that relative path. Okay, the only reason that you would need to change this relative path is if you change this image here, the school image, if you change the place that that school image is being stored. Then, of course, you will have it broken. But you will have it broken. The image would not be shown, even if you had the absolute path, including the images folder, but then you decided to move the school picture to be in another folder or in another place, okay? It would break anyway. So that's the reason you always prefer relative path to absolute path. Now, on the other hand, if you're calling something that it's outside your domain name, it's outside your website, then you need to use absolute path, but the complete absolute path. Okay? So that's it for the relative and absolute path. And we are going to return to this term when we talk about hyperlinks, images, or any other file that we bring to our web page. Okay? Have a nice day.